He had built an empire, the kind of success most only dream about. But on that quiet afternoon, stepping into his sleek black car, his world collided with something money could never shield him from. A small voice, unexpected, sharp, cut through the silence. Shut up. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disrespect. It was something deeper, something heavier. In that moment, he didn't know he was about to uncover a truth that would shake him to his core. What could drive a child to say those words to a stranger, and what dark history was about to surface? Jonathan Pryce was the kind of man people took notice of. At 43, he had the polished confidence of a self-made millionaire CEO who'd climbed from nothing to the top floor of his own glass-walled empire. His days were a blur of boardrooms, deals, and handshakes. Success had given him comfort, but also a kind of insulation from the world's rough edges. That day was supposed to be routine. A meeting had run late, and the afternoon sun spilled across the pavement as he walked toward his car, parked in the quiet back lot of an upscale cafe. He thought about the next deal, the next flight, the next step in a life meticulously planned, but somewhere between the cafe door and the driver's seat, that sense of control began to shift. He didn't notice it at first, the way a still pond hides the current underneath. What he didn't know was that he was about to come face to face with a truth far removed from his world of polished boardrooms and luxury sedans. And it would come from the most unexpected voice imaginable. Jonathan slid into the driver's seat, the familiar scent of leather and faint cologne wrapping around him. But before the door could close, a small shadow appeared by the edge of the car. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old, skin the color of warm earth, hair pulled into tight braids that framed a face far too serious for her age, her eyes locked on his. No smile, no hesitation, just 3 words, sharp and cold: shut up. Jonathan blinked, stunned, his hand still frozen on the door handle. It wasn't the words themselves that rattled him, it was the weight behind them. Something in her voice carried years she hadn't lived yet, a heaviness that didn't belong in a child's world. Before he could speak, she stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. Across the street, he noticed movement, an older woman, maybe her mother, clutching a grocery bag and watching with tense, darting eyes. Behind her, 2 men leaned against a rusted car, staring opally at the scene. Jonathan's pulse quickened. He didn't know these people, but he felt their attention like a spotlight on him. The girl didn't move, didn't look away. It was as if she was guarding him from something or warning him about it. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong in this quiet parking lot, the low rumble of an engine idling too long, the faint crackle of a police radio. Jonathan's mind began to piece together what he was seeing. The way the older woman subtly shifted her body to shield the girl. The way the 2 men's stares weren't curiosity, but calculation. The way the girl's small shoulders seemed ready to bear a fight that wasn't hers to start. Then, a flash of light caught his eye reflective glass. A patrol car was parked at the far end of the lot, its windows rolled down just enough for someone inside to watch. The officer's gaze was fixed directly on Jonathan's car. The girl's jaw tightened. Her tiny fists clenched, and then he understood she wasn't telling him to be quiet for her sake. She was telling him to be quiet because someone else was listening. Someone who, in her world, could turn a single word into a dangerous mistake. Jonathan's chest tightened. He'd negotiated billion-dollar contracts without breaking a sweat, but now, sitting in his own car, he felt an unfamiliar chill. The officer's eyes didn't move. The man by the rusted car didn't either. Time seemed to slow, the air thick. With an unspoken warning, somewhere deep down, Jonathan knew if he said the wrong thing, even by accident, this wouldn't end in a conversation. And then the officer stepped out of the car. The officer's boots hit the pavement with slow, deliberate steps. Each one echoed in Jonathan's ears, louder than the distant hum of traffic. His gaze never broke from Jonathan's face. The child's eyes flicked between them, fear in her stillness, urgency in her silence. "Sir, step out of the vehicle." The words weren't loud, but they carried a weight Jonathan felt in his chest. He hesitated. His hands gripped the steering wheel as if letting go would set something in motion he couldn't stop. The officer's hand rested too casually on the edge of his holster. Behind him, the two men by the rusted car straightened, watching like this was a show they'd seen before. Jonathan glanced toward the older woman. She gave the smallest shake of her head, a warning he didn't fully understand but felt in his bones. He stepped out slowly, the late afternoon light slicing across his suit. The girl took half a step forward, but the woman's hand shot out, holding her back. The officer's eyes scanned Jonathan, not like a man assessing a situation, but like one searching for a reason to escalate. Jonathan's mind flashed with headlines, grainy phone footage, names etched into protests. This couldn't happen to him, could it? He had money. He had status. But in this moment, stripped of the comfort of titles, he realized none of that mattered. The officer moved closer, the space between them collapsing. Jonathan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Every instinct screamed at him to explain, to ask what this was about, but the girl's voice from moments ago rang louder in his head. "Shut up." For a split second, their eyes locked. The officer's grip on his belt tightened. Jonathan's next breath caught in his throat. Then, without warning, the officer reached for something at his side. The officer's hand emerged not with a weapon, but with a flashlight. He flicked it on, sweeping the beam across Jonathan's face, his license plate, and the inside of his car. Without explanation, he muttered something into his radio, turned, and walked back to his patrol car. No ticket, no reason, no apology, just gone. Jonathan stood there in the fading light, his heart still pounding. Around him, the scene dissolved. The two men drifted away. The woman clutched the girl's hand and led her toward the street. But not before the child looked back at him, her eyes carrying a truth he couldn't unsee. She'd known this could have gone another way. She'd known, even at her age, how quickly silence can be the difference between walking away and becoming a headline. Driving home, the world outside his tinted windows felt different. He'd spent years believing success could insulate him from certain realities, but that parking lot stripped away the illusion. It didn't matter who you were, what you wore, or how much you had when bias had you in its sights. You were reduced to one thing: a threat. That night, he lay awake replaying the moment, realizing the weight that little girl carried every single day of her life. She shouldn't have to. None of them should. This wasn't just his story, it was one of countless stories that never make the news. Stories that remind us racism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a silent stare, a casual hand near a holster, a child knowing she must teach a stranger how to survive. The question isn't whether it will happen again. The question is when it does, will we finally speak loudly enough for it to stop?